So, have you ever wondered what makes some workplaces feel incredible while others just feel, well, toxic? A massive part of the answer comes down to leadership. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating research article published in Frontiers in Psychology back in 2023. It's all about how ethical leadership directly shapes employee behavior, basically giving us a blueprint for how good leaders create genuinely good workplaces. It feels like you can't turn on the news or scroll through social media without seeing some news scandal, right? It's happening in private companies, public institutions, everywhere. And all of this has put a huge spotlight on workplace ethics, creating this real sense of urgency to figure out, what is going on here. So let's just stop and think about that for a second. We tend to think of it as just a few bad apples spoiling the bunch. But how widespread is this problem really? The answer might actually shock you. Okay, get ready for this. The study we're looking at focused on China's public sector, and the numbers they found were honestly staggering. A full 90% of employees admitted to taking unauthorized long breaks. And believe me, that's just the tip of the iceberg. And it's not just about stealing time. What about company resources? Well, nearly half of all employees, 49%, said they misused their official computers for things that were definitely not work-related. And if you can believe it, it doesn't stop there. Another 49% of employees admitted to straight up stealing office equipment. So when you see numbers like these all lined up, it becomes painfully clear that this isn't just a few isolated cases. It's a systemic problem. Look, this kind of behavior isn't just about bending a few rules. It actively harms organizations. We're talking real financial losses, and maybe even worse, it completely erodes the workplace culture from the inside out. Which leads to the big question, how on earth do you fix it? Well, according to this research, the answer starts right at the top. The whole solution is built on a really simple but incredibly powerful psychological idea about how we all learn to behave in a group, like, say, an office. The whole foundation of this study is something called social learning theory. And the core idea is pretty much monkey see, monkey do. We humans are wired to learn from and imitate the people we see as role models, especially people in charge. So in any workplace, all eyes are on the leaders, taking cues on how to act. And this brings us to our first key concept, ethical leadership. This isn't just about a leader being a good person in their private life. No, it's about them publicly showing and promoting the right way to behave. They're fair, they're honest, they're respectful, and they make the standards crystal clear for everybody. They don't just talk the talk, they have to walk the walk. But here's where it gets really interesting. It turns out it's not just a simple game of copycat. Ethical leadership does something way deeper. It doesn't just make employees imitate what their boss does. It actually gets them to believe in the organization's mission on a really personal level. And that brings us to the crucial link in this whole chain, organizational commitment. Just think of this as the psychological glue that holds an employee to their company. It's that deep down feeling of loyalty, of belonging, that feeling that you're on the right team, fighting for something you actually care about. And this lays out exactly how it all connects, like a three-step chain reaction. First, you have an ethical leader who acts as a true moral role model. Second, that leadership builds trust and makes employees feel genuinely committed to the organization. And finally, it's that very commitment that motivates them to act ethically themselves. As you can see, that middle piece, organizational commitment, is the absolutely essential bridge. So it's a great theory, right? But does it actually hold up in the real world? That's exactly what these researchers wanted to find out. So they designed a study to put this whole model on trial. To do this, they zeroed in on China's public education sector. They ran a big quantitative survey with employees from 4 large universities, and they used these well-established, scientifically proven scales to measure ethical leadership, organizational commitment, and ethical work behavior. So they sent out 500 questionnaires and got back 400 valid responses. Now that is a really solid sample size, and it gives us a lot of confidence in the results they were about to uncover. Okay, so the theory was clear, the data was collected. This is the moment of truth. Did the numbers actually support what they thought was happening? So the first big question was simple and direct. Is there a real positive relationship between a leader being ethical and their employees also behaving ethically? And the answer was a huge, resounding yes. The data showed a significant positive link. It's clear, when leaders act ethically, their teams follow their lead. Hypothesis 1, absolutely supported.
But what about that bridge? Was organizational commitment really the special ingredient that made it all work? That was the second, more subtle hypothesis.
And you know what? Once again, the data confirmed it. Organizational commitment was that significant missing piece, proving the entire model correct. Ethical leadership builds organizational commitment, which then leads to ethical work behavior. It all connects.
This quote from the study's discussion just sums it all up so perfectly. It's not just about rules, it's about relationships. When employees feel like their leaders genuinely care about them and have their back, it builds this incredible foundation of trust. And that trust is what fuels everything else. So we've got the theory and we've got the proof. But what do we actually do with this knowledge? Well, the most important part of this research is how it all translates into a clear, actionable plan for any organization out there.
The study basically lays out a 5-point blueprint. Hire leaders who already have a strong moral compass. Train the managers you currently have to lead in a more ethical way. Require it in job descriptions and performance reviews. Reward the behavior you want to see and have actual consequences for violations. And finally, educate everyone on why this stuff matters so much. It's a whole system approach to building a better culture.
And that brings us to the final question, the one that really matters for all of us. Looking at this blueprint and thinking about your own job, your own experience, what's one step, big or small, that your workplace could take right now to start building a more ethical, more committed, and ultimately a more successful culture?